The cantina on Nexus Station buzzed with the usual mix of alien voices and mechanical sounds. Ship engines hummed in the distance while traders argued over prices in a dozen different languages. But in the back corner, a special group had gathered around a large circular table made of polished metal. 5 massive chairs surrounded the table, each one built for a different type of alien body. These were not ordinary traders or diplomats. These were the apex predators of known space, and tonight was their monthly meeting. The first to speak was Crexton, a Veltar warrior who stood over 8 feet tall even when sitting. His reptilian scales caught the dim light and his yellow eyes gleamed with pride. Sharp claws tapped against his drink as he leaned forward. "Last month I hunted the great thornback of Rigel 7, Crexton said, his voice deep and rough. The beast was twice my size with armor plates that could stop plasma bolts. But I tracked it for 7 days through the crystal forests. When it finally turned to face me, I could see the fear in its 6 eyes." The other predators listened with respect. They knew the thornbacks were dangerous creatures that had killed many hunters before. "It charged at me with those massive horns," Crexton continued, spreading his arms wide. "But I was ready. I leaped over its head and drove my claws deep into its neck. The beast fell and I claimed its horns as my prize." Chittering sounds came from across the table. Zakira, a Cathara, rubbed her forearms together in approval. Her insect-like body was smaller than the Veltar, but her mandibles dripped with acid that could melt through steel. "Impressive, brother," Zakira said, her voice clicking and buzzing. "But last week my pack brought down an entire herd of galactic bison on Kepler Prime. 43 beasts, each one larger than your thornback." She stood up, her forearms moving as she told her story. "We surrounded them at the waterholes during the dry season. They had nowhere to run. My pack of 12 hunters moved like shadows through the tall grass. The bison could smell us, but they could not see us." Zakira's mandibles clicked faster as she got excited. "When we attacked, the panic was beautiful. The great beasts trampled each other trying to escape. My acid burned through their thick hides like paper. In 1 hour, the entire herd was dead." Gromlash, the massive dromund, made a sound like rocks grinding together. His bear-like body was covered in thick brown fur, and his arms were as big around as tree trunks. When he laughed, the whole table shook. "Pack hunting is for the weak," Gromlash rumbled. "I hunt alone as a true predator should. 2 months ago, I faced the Iron Mammoth of Titan Station's arena. The beast had killed 40 gladiators before me. The Iron Mammoth was famous across the galaxy. It was a cyborg creature with metal tusks and armor plating. Many warriors had died trying to defeat it for sport." The crowd screamed for blood, Gromlash said, his small black eyes gleaming. "The mammoth charged at me with those metal tusks aimed at my heart. But I caught those tusks with my bare hands. I heard the metal bend and break as I twisted its head to the side." He raised his massive arms above his head. "I lifted the entire beast off the ground and slammed it down so hard that the arena floor cracked." The crowd went silent. They had never seen such strength. The last predator at the table was Silvash, a Silthek whose long, snake-like body coiled around his chair. His scales were a deep purple color and his yellow eyes had no pupils. When he smiled, his fangs showed clearly. "Strength and pack tactics have their place," Silvash said, his voice smooth like silk. "But the greatest hunts require patience and poison. 3 months ago, I was hired to eliminate the crime lord Vextol on his fortress world." The others leaned in to listen. Vextol had been one of the most protected criminals in the galaxy, surrounded by guards and defensive systems. "I spent 2 weeks studying his habits," Silvash continued. "Every day he drank wine from the same crystal glass. Every day his food taster checked his meals. But he never suspected his wine glass itself." Silvash ran his forked tongue across his lips. "I coated the inside of his glass with my venom. Odorless, tasteless, and it only activated when mixed with alcohol. The fool drank his poisoned wine while surrounded by 50 bodyguards. He died thinking he was completely safe." The 4 predators sat in comfortable silence for a moment, enjoying their shared stories of successful hunts. They were the apex species of their respective worlds, and they took pride in their killing abilities. The cantina around them continued its busy noise, but their corner felt separate from the rest of the station. Here only the strong could sit. Here, only hunters could understand the thrill of the kill. Crexton raised his glass, filled with a strong blue liquid from his homeworld. "To the hunt," he said. "To the hunt," the others replied, raising their own drinks. but as they drank, a small figure approached their table. At first, none of them noticed. The newcomer was tiny compared to them, barely reaching Gromlash's elbow even when he was sitting down. It was a human female, wearing a simple gray uniform with some kind of scientific equipment on her belt. She had short dark hair and carried a small electronic pad in her hands. Her skin was pale, and she looked fragile compared to the massive predators. She stood quietly beside their table for several seconds before Zakhira noticed her with her compound eyes. "What do you want, little prey?" Zakhira asked, her mandibles clicking with amusement. The human woman looked up at them without fear, which surprised all four predators. Most smaller species ran when they saw this group together. "My name is Dr. Sarah Chen," the human said in a calm voice. "I'm a xenobiologist studying different species across the galaxy. I couldn't help but overhear your conversation about hunting. Would it be possible for me to join you? I'm very interested in learning about your hunting methods." The four predators looked at each other and burst into laughter. The sound was loud enough to make other customers in the cantina turn their heads. "You want to learn about hunting?" Gromlash asked, still laughing. "Little human, you are prey, not predator. What could you possibly understand about the hunt?" Sarah Chen smiled and pulled out a chair that was much too big for her. She climbed up into it like a child sitting at an adult table. "You might be surprised," she said simply. "My species has some experience with hunting too. May I listen to more of your stories? I promise I won't interrupt." Crexton looked at the small human with his yellow eyes. Something about her calm behavior puzzled him, but he shrugged his massive shoulders. "Very well, little prey," he said. "But do not speak unless we ask you a question. This is a table for predators only." Sarah Chen nodded and opened her electronic pad to take notes. "Thank you. Please continue with your stories. I'm fascinated to learn more." The four predators looked at each other again, still amused by the small human's boldness. They had no idea that their evening was about to change completely. The four predators continued their stories while Dr. Sarah Chen sat quietly in her oversized chair, taking notes on her electronic pad. At first, they forgot she was even there. They were too busy enjoying their tales of successful hunts. Crexton started talking about another hunt from his younger days. "When I was barely adult, I tracked the last wild speeder on my homeworld. These creatures were faster than any vehicle we had built. They could run across our desert plains for days without stopping." He flexed his claws as he spoke. "The hunt took me 3 weeks. Every time I got close, the beast would disappear over the horizon. But I never gave up. On the final day, I cornered it in a narrow canyon where its speed meant nothing." Sarah looked up from her notes with genuine curiosity in her eyes. "That sounds like an amazing creature. What happened to the wild speeders after you caught the last one?" The question was simple, but it made Crexton pause. He had never thought about it before. "Well, they are all gone now. I caught the last one." "I see," Sarah said, making a note. "So your people hunted them until none were left? What did your world's ecosystem do without them?" Crexton shifted uncomfortably in his chair. The desert plains are different now. Quieter. The grass grows too thick in some places because nothing runs through it anymore." Sarah nodded and wrote something down. "That's very interesting. Ecological changes after species removal can be quite dramatic." Zakhira's mandibles clicked with annoyance. "Enough talk about grass. Listen to a real hunt story." She leaned forward, her forearms moving as she spoke. "My greatest hunt was on the moons of Zerion. There lived the Silverwings, flying creatures with wingspan longer than a starship." Her compound eyes gleamed as she remembered. They were beautiful and terrible. They could fly between the moons without breathing equipment. "My people organized the Great Sky Hunt. Every pack worked together. We used gravity nets and acid clouds. It was glorious," Zakhira continued. "The sky was full of dying silverwings falling like silver rain. In one day we killed them all. The moons belonged to us after that." Sarah made more notes, then looked up with the same curious expression. "How fascinating. Were the silverwings important to the moon's ecosystem?" Zakhira's clicking slowed down. They carried seeds between the moons, and they ate the stormflies that damaged our equipment." "What happened after they were gone?" Sarah asked gently. For the first time, Zakhira looked uncomfortable. "The plants on the outer moon started dying. Without seeds being carried, new growth stopped. And the stormflies, they multiplied quickly. They damage our mining equipment now. We have to spend much money protecting our machines. Sarah wrote this down carefully. So the removal of one species affected your industrial operations. That's a perfect example of interconnected ecosystems. Gromlash growled softly. You ask strange questions, little human. We are hunters, not gardeners. We take what we want. Of course, Sarah said with a smile. I'm just curious about the long-term effects. Would you tell me about one of your hunts? Gromlash puffed out his massive chest with pride. I will tell you about the great purge of my homeworld. When my people first reached the stars, our planet was full of dangerous predators. Giant cave bears, saber-toothed cats, acid spitters. They threatened our cities. His small black eyes gleamed with the memory. So we organized hunting parties. Every dangerous animal on our world was marked for death. It took 50 years, but we killed them all. Every cave bear, every saber-tooth, every acid spitter. Our world became safe for our cubs. Sarah listened carefully, then asked, What kinds of animals do these predators usually hunt? Smaller prey animals, Gromlash said. Plant eaters mostly. Deer-like creatures, burrowing animals, tree climbers. And what happened to those plant eaters after their predators were gone? Sarah asked. Gromlash's expression changed. For a moment, he looked confused. They multiplied, very fast, too fast. How did that affect your world? Sarah prompted gently. They ate all the plants, Gromlash admitted reluctantly. Our forests became bare ground. Our crops were destroyed. We had to build walls around every garden and farm. Now we import most of our food from other worlds. Sarah made a long note on her pad. So removing the predators actually made your food situation worse, not better. The three predators who had spoken looked at each other uncomfortably. None of them had ever thought about these connections before. They had focused only on the glory of the hunt, not what happened afterward. Silvash decided to change the mood with his own story. Listen to a tale of precision hunting, he said smoothly. On the water world of Aquatica, there lived the deep singers, whale-like creatures that could sing songs across entire oceans. His purple scales shimmered as he spoke. Their songs were beautiful, but they interfered with our underwater mining operations. The vibrations made our equipment malfunction, so my people were hired to silence them forever. Silvash's forked tongue flicked out as he remembered. We poisoned their feeding grounds with a toxin that attacked their vocal cords. Slowly, over many months, their songs grew quieter. Finally, the oceans fell silent. Sarah looked up from her notes. Did the deep singers serve any other purpose in the ocean ecosystem? Silvash hesitated. Their songs helped other sea creatures navigate. They sang directions through the underwater currents. What happened to those other creatures after the song stopped? Sarah asked. Many got lost, Silvash admitted. Fish populations moved to wrong areas. Some breeding grounds were abandoned. The fishing industry on Aquatica has struggled since then. Sarah nodded and wrote more notes. So the mining operations improved, but the fishing industry suffered. Did your people consider that trade-off? Silvash coiled his body tighter around his chair. We completed our contract. We were paid to stop the songs, and we stopped them. Of course, Sarah said. I'm just interested in understanding the full picture. The four predators sat in uncomfortable silence. Each of their proud hunting stories had taken an unexpected turn. Instead of celebrating their victories, they were thinking about consequences they had never considered before. Crexton broke the silence first. You ask many questions about what happens after the hunt. Most species only care about avoiding being hunted. Sarah smiled at him. My species learned early that everything is connected. When you remove one piece from a system, other pieces start moving in unexpected ways. Your species? Zakhira clicked with amusement. What could humans possibly know about hunting? You have no claws, no fangs, no venom. You are small and weak. Sarah's smile grew wider. We might surprise you. Humans have quite a bit of experience with hunting, actually. Gromlash laughed, a sound like boulders falling. What do you hunt, little prey? Insects? Small fish? Oh, we've hunted much bigger things than that, Sarah said calmly. Would you like to hear about it? The four predators looked at each other and laughed again. The idea of this small, soft creature telling hunting stories seemed ridiculous. Very well, Crexton said with amusement. Tell us about human hunting, little prey. We could use some entertainment. Sarah closed her electronic pad and looked at each of them in turn. Her expression was still calm and friendly, but something had changed in her eyes. I'd be happy to share, she said, but I should warn you. Human hunting stories are a bit different from yours. Sarah leaned back in her oversized chair and looked at the four massive predators with a thoughtful expression. They were still chuckling about the idea of a human telling hunting stories, You're right that humans don't have claws or fangs, Sarah began. We're not very fast either. And we definitely don't have venom or acid, but we are persistent. Crex then waved one clawed hand dismissively. Persistence means nothing if you cannot catch your prey. That's where you're wrong, Sarah said with a gentle smile. Let me tell you about how humans hunted mammoths. The four aliens leaned forward slightly, curious despite themselves. Mammoths were huge creatures on our homeworld, Sarah explained. Much bigger than any of us. They had thick fur, massive tusks, and could trample a human easily. They were also much stronger than us. So how could weak humans possibly hunt such beasts? Zaghira asked, her mandibles clicking with skepticism. We followed them, Sarah said simply, for days. Sometimes weeks. A group of humans would pick one mammoth and just follow it. We couldn't run as fast as the mammoth, but we could keep running after it got tired. Gromlash snorted. Running after prey until it gets tired? That is not hunting, that is chasing. You might think so, Sarah agreed. But here's the thing about mammals. Most animals are built for short bursts of speed or strength. They can run very fast for a little while, then they need to rest. But humans can keep moving for hours and hours. She stood up in her chair, warming to her story. So the mammoth would run away from the humans. After a few miles, it would stop to rest and eat. But the humans would still be coming, still following its tracks. The mammoth would run again. This went on for days, Sarah continued. The mammoth couldn't understand why these small creatures wouldn't give up. It would run until its lungs burned and its muscles ached, but when it stopped to rest, there they were again. Always following, always getting closer. Silvash's yellow eyes narrowed. And then? Eventually, the mammoth would be so exhausted it could barely walk. Then the humans would attack with spears and stones. The great beast would die not from a single mighty blow, but from exhaustion and many small wounds. The four predators were quiet for a moment. This was not the kind of hunting they understood. This is not proper hunting, Crexton said finally. Where is the honor in wearing down your prey until it cannot fight back? Honor? Sarah repeated, tilting her head. We weren't hunting for honor. We were hunting for food, for survival. And it worked very well. Maybe too well. What do you mean? Zaghira asked. We were so good at persistence hunting that we killed all the mammoths, Sarah said matter-of-factly, and the giant bears, and the saber-toothed cats, and most of the other large animals on our homeworld. Gromlash shifted uncomfortably. This sounded familiar. But humans learned something interesting during those hunts, Sarah continued. We learned that we were also very good at hunting each other. The cantina noise seemed to fade around their table. The four aliens found themselves listening more carefully. You see, there used to be other types of humans, Sarah explained. Neanderthals who were stronger and tougher than us. Denisovans who lived in the mountains. Homo erectus who had spread across many continents. They were all human, but different types of human. What happened to them? Silvash asked quietly. We hunted them, Sarah said simply, not with spears or stones. We hunted them with ideas, with technology, with better organization. We moved into their territories and took their resources. We were better at making tools, better at working together, better at adapting to new environments. She paused to let this sink in. Sometimes we fought them directly. Sometimes we just outcompeted them for food and shelter. And sometimes we absorbed them. We interbred with some of them, taking their best traits and adding them to our own. The four predators stared at her. This was a type of hunting they had never imagined. The Neanderthals were stronger than us, Sarah continued. They had bigger brains in some ways. They were better adapted to cold weather. But we were more flexible, more creative. We could learn from them, and they couldn't learn from us fast enough. How long did this hunting take? Gromlash asked, his voice quieter than usual. About 40,000 years, Sarah replied casually. Maybe longer. We were very patient hunters. Zaghira's mandibles stopped clicking entirely. 40,000 years? You hunted other humans for 40,000 years. We didn't call it hunting at the time, Sarah said. We called it migration or expansion or survival. But looking back, that's what it was. We spread across the entire planet, and everywhere we went, the other types of humans disappeared. She looked at each of them in turn. By the end, only one type of human was left. Us. We were the sole survivors of a species-wide competition that lasted longer than your entire recorded histories. Crexthon's claws tapped nervously against the table. You killed your own species? We became our own species, Sarah corrected. We absorbed the useful traits from our cousins and let the rest fade away. It wasn't personal. It was just efficient. But that's impossible, Silvash protested. No species hunts itself to extinction. It goes against every survival instinct. Sarah smiled, and for the first time there was something cold in that smile. Who said anything about extinction? We're still here. We just made sure we were the only type of human left. The four predators looked at each other with growing unease. They were beginning to realize that the small, soft creature sitting at their table represented something they had never encountered before. That's not the strangest part, though, Sarah continued conversationally. The strangest part is what happened after we finished that hunt. What happened? Gromlash asked reluctantly. We got bored, Sarah said with a laugh. Can you imagine? We spent 40,000 years perfecting our hunting techniques, becoming the ultimate persistence predator, and then we ran out of other humans to compete with. She spread her hands wide. So we started hunting everything else. We hunted the last giant mammals to extinction. We hunted whales until there were almost none left. We hunted wolves and bears and big cats until they only existed in small groups. You destroyed your own world? Zakira asked. Almost, Sarah admitted. We came very close. But then something interesting happened. We learned to hunt our own hunting instincts. The four aliens stared at her in confusion. We realized that killing everything was not sustainable, Sarah explained. So we started hunting different prey. We hunted diseases instead of animals. We hunted ignorance instead of each other. We hunted poverty and hunger and suffering. She leaned forward in her chair. We turned our persistence hunting skills toward problems instead of people. And it turns out we're very good at it. Silvash's voice was barely a whisper. What do you hunt now? Sarah's smile returned, warm and friendly again. Cancer cells. Asteroids that might hit planets. Quantum physics mysteries. Climate change. The heat death of the universe. We'll pursue any problem for as long as it takes to solve it. She looked around the table at their stunned faces. We're still persistence hunters. We just learned to choose our prey more carefully. The cantina noise rushed back in as the four predators sat in shocked silence, realizing they had completely misjudged the small human sitting among them. The silence at the table stretched on as the four predators tried to process what Sarah had just told them. Finally, Crexton found his voice. You hunt. Problems? He asked slowly. How does one hunt something that is not alive? Sarah opened her electronic pad again and pulled up some files. The same way you hunt anything else. You study it, track it, learn its weaknesses, and then you pursue it until you can destroy it. She showed them a complex diagram on her screen. This is how humans hunted smallpox. It was a disease that killed millions of people every year. We couldn't see it with our eyes, but we could track its movements from person to person, city to city. Zakira leaned closer to look at the screen with her compound eyes. This looks like a battle plan. Exactly, Sarah said with approval. We surrounded smallpox. We cut off its escape routes by vaccinating people. We tracked down every single case and isolated it. We hunted that disease for decades until we cornered it in just a few laboratories. And then? Gromlash asked. We killed it, Sarah said simply. Smallpox is extinct now except for samples we keep locked away for research. We hunted a disease to complete extinction. Silvash stared at the diagram. This is incredible, but diseases are not intelligent. They cannot fight back like prey animals. You're right, Sarah agreed. So let me tell you about how we hunted the wolves. She pulled up another file, showing pictures of large gray animals. Wolves used to be all over our homeworld. They were apex predators, like you. They hunted in packs, they were intelligent, and they were very good at avoiding humans. What did they do wrong? Crexton asked. They competed with us for prey, Sarah explained. And sometimes they killed our livestock. So we decided they had to go. We used poison, traps, guns, tracking hounds. We offered rewards for every wolf killed. We were very thorough. The four aliens nodded. This sounded like normal predator behavior. We almost succeeded completely. Sarah continued. By the 1970s, there were only a few hundred wolves left in the remotest wilderness areas. We had won. But Zakira sensed there was more to the story. But then we noticed something strange happening to the ecosystem, Sarah said. Without wolves, the deer and elk populations exploded. They ate all the young trees and bushes. Rivers started changing course because there were no tree roots to hold the soil in place. She showed them before and after pictures of landscapes. We realized that wolves weren't just predators. They were ecosystem engineers. Their hunting patterns shaped the entire environment. Gromlash looked confused. So what did you do? We brought them back, Sarah said. We captured wolves from other regions and released them in areas where they had been extinct. We hunted our own hunting success. That makes no sense, Silvash protested. Why would you restore prey that you had worked to eliminate? Sarah smiled. Because we learned that some hunts are mistakes. The mark of a truly successful hunter is knowing when to stop hunting and when to fix the damage you've caused. She pulled up a video showing wolves running through a snowy forest. We've been tracking these restored wolf populations for 50 years now. We study every pack, monitor every kill, analyze every ecological change. We're hunting for the perfect balance. You hunt for balance? Crexton asked, his yellow eyes wide. Among other things, Sarah said. Let me show you some of our current hunts. She flipped through several files on her pad. We're hunting for clean energy sources that don't damage the environment. We're hunting for ways to grow food without depleting soil. We're hunting for materials that are stronger than anything in nature. Each file showed complex charts, graphs, and research data. We have millions of humans working on thousands of different hunts. Some of these hunts have been going on for centuries. Zakira studied the data with fascination. This is like pack hunting, but with ideas instead of prey. Exactly, Sarah said. And the beautiful thing is that when we succeed in these hunts, everyone benefits. When we hunted polio, every species on every world was safer from disease. When we hunt asteroid impacts, we protect entire solar systems. She closed the pad and looked at them seriously. The old kind of hunting was about taking something away from the world. Our new kind of hunting is about adding something to it. Gromlash shifted uncomfortably in his chair. But surely you still hunt living things, you still need food. Of course we do, Sarah agreed. But we learn to hunt sustainably. We take only what we need, and we make sure our prey populations can recover. How? Silvash asked. We study them first, Sarah explained. We hunt for knowledge about their breeding cycles, their habitat needs, their role in the ecosystem. Then we hunt only the amount we can take without damaging the population. She smiled at their confused expressions. We even hunt for ways to make our prey stronger and healthier. We protect their breeding grounds, we eliminate their diseases, we give them space to thrive. You help your prey? Crexton asked in disbelief. Why not? Sarah shrugged. Healthy prey makes for better hunting. And if we take care of the ecosystem, it takes care of us. Zakira's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. This is a completely different approach to being a predator. It's the result of 40,000 years of learning from our mistakes, Sarah said. We tried the other way first. We tried hunting everything to extinction, dominating every environment, taking whatever we wanted. What stopped you? Gromlash asked. We almost destroyed ourselves, Sarah admitted. We poisoned our air, polluted. Our water changed our climate and drove so many species extinct that our ecosystems started collapsing. She looked at each of them in turn. We realized that we were hunting ourselves toward extinction, just like we had hunted everything else. So we turned our hunting instincts on that problem. You hunted your own destructive behavior? Silvash asked. With the same persistence we used to hunt mammoths, Sarah confirmed. We studied the problem, tracked its causes, learned its patterns, and then we pursued solutions until we found them. And it worked? Zakira asked. We're still here, Sarah pointed out. And our world is healing. Our population is stable, our technology is cleaner, and we're spreading out to other worlds to reduce pressure on our homeworld. She reopened her pad and showed them an image of Earth from space, blue and green and beautiful. This is what a successfully hunted planet looks like. Not empty and silent, but full of life that we protect and manage. Gromlash stared at the image. Your homeworld is more beautiful than ours ever was. It wasn't always, Sarah said softly. We had to hunt for ways to restore it. That hunt took us 200 years and it's still ongoing. She looked around the table at their stunned faces. You see, the ultimate hunt isn't for any particular prey. It's for wisdom. It's for understanding. It's for the knowledge of how to be better predators than we were before. The four aliens sat in silence, absorbing this completely new way of thinking about hunting and predation. Everything they thought they knew about being apex predators was being challenged by this small, soft human. Finally, Crexton spoke. If what you say is true, then humans are not prey at all. Sarah smiled, and this time there was something ancient and patient in her expression. No, she agreed. We're not prey. We're the predators who learned to hunt our own predatory nature, and somehow that made us more dangerous than we ever were before. The cantina around them had grown quieter as the evening wore on, but the four predators and the human scientist remained deep in conversation. The atmosphere at their table had completely changed from when the evening began. Crexton looked down at his claws, which had seemed so impressive when he was telling stories about the Thornback hunt. Now they just looked like simple tools. Dr. Chen, he said slowly, what you describe sounds like hunting, but it also sounds like gardening. You grow your prey instead of just taking it. Sarah nodded. That's a good way to think about it. We learned that the best hunters are also the best gardeners. If you want to hunt successfully forever, you need to make sure there's always something to hunt. Zakira's forearms moved restlessly. But what about the thrill? What about the challenge? Where is the excitement in hunting diseases or hunting balance? Oh, there's plenty of excitement, Sarah assured her with a laugh. Do you know how hard it is to hunt cancer? Cancer cells are smart. They evolve, they hide, they develop resistance to our attacks. We've been hunting cancer for over a century, and it still surprises us. She pulled up another file on her pad. Just last year, we developed a new technique that turns the body's own immune system into cancer hunters. We taught immune cells to recognize and track cancer cells more effectively than they ever could naturally. You made other hunters? Gromlash asked with interest. In a way, yes, Sarah said. We hunt for ways to make better hunters. We've created medicines that help the body hunt infections. We've built machines that hunt for dangerous asteroids in space. We've even taught computers to hunt for patterns in data that humans might miss. Silvash coiled his body tighter around his chair. This is all very impressive, but I still do not understand why you would want to help your prey survive. Every predator knows that weak prey makes for easy hunting. That's true, Sarah agreed. But we learned something interesting about challenges. The harder the hunt, the more we improve ourselves. When we hunt easy prey, we get lazy and weak. When we hunt difficult problems, we become stronger and smarter. She gestured to her electronic pad. Every device I'm using, every piece of technology that brought me to this station, every medicine that keeps me healthy, all of it came from hunting difficult problems. We literally became more advanced by choosing harder prey. Give us an example, Crexton requested. All right, Sarah said, thinking for a moment. We decided to hunt for a way to visit other stars. This seemed impossible at first. The distances are huge, the energy requirements are enormous, and the timescales are longer than human lifespans. How do you hunt something impossible? Zakira asked. The same way we hunted mammoths, Sarah replied. Persistence. We broke the big problem into smaller problems. We hunted for better materials, better engines, better life support systems, better navigation. Each small hunt led to new discoveries. She showed them images of human spaceships and space stations. It took us 300 years, but we finally developed faster than light travel. And all the technology we created along the way improved our lives in thousands of other ways. So the hunt made you stronger, Gromlash observed. Exactly, Sarah said. And now we're hunting for even bigger challenges. We want to hunt for ways to travel between galaxies. We want to hunt for life in other dimensions. We want to hunt for ways to survive the heat death of the universe itself. Silvash's yellow eyes widened. You hunt eternity? Why not? Sarah shrugged. We have plenty of time, and every step of that hunt will teach us new things. Help us solve other problems, make us better than we were before. The four predators sat quietly, trying to imagine hunting on such vast scales. It was difficult for them to think beyond their next meal or their next territory. But what about your hunting instincts? Crexton asked. Do humans never feel the urge to hunt something you can kill and eat? Of course we do, Sarah said with a smile. We're still biological creatures, but we've learned to satisfy those urges in controlled ways. We have sports that simulate hunting. We have games that let us compete with each other safely. We have virtual realities where we can hunt digital prey. And when we do hunt real animals for food, she continued, we do it as part of ecosystem management. We hunt deer that are overpopulated, or fish species that need thinning, or invasive species that threaten native wildlife. Zakira clicked her mandibles thoughtfully. So you never stopped being predators. You just became more selective about your prey. Precisely, Sarah agreed. We hunt problems instead of people. We hunt challenges instead of just victims. We hunt for knowledge instead of just food. Gromlash leaned forward. Dr. Chen, what are you hunting now? What brought you to this station? Sarah's expression became more serious. I'm part of a research team hunting for solutions to ecological collapse. We've identified 17 worlds where predator species have hunted their ecosystems to the brink of destruction. She looked at each of them meaningfully. We're hunting for ways to help those worlds recover before their biospheres fail completely. The four aliens suddenly realized that this conversation had not been random. This human had specifically sought them out. Our worlds, Silvash said quietly. You're talking about our worlds. Among others, Sarah confirmed. Veltar Prime is losing its topsoil without the thornbacks to maintain the vegetation. The Cathara mining moons are becoming uninhabitable due to stormfly damage. The Dromund homeworld imports 80% of its food because of ecosystem collapse, and Aquatica's fishing industry is in free fall. She closed her pad and looked at them directly. We'd like to help. We've successfully restored dozens of damaged ecosystems, but we need cooperation from the apex predator species on each world. What kind of cooperation? Crexton asked suspiciously. We want to hunt together, Sarah said simply. We hunt for solutions, you provide knowledge about your local ecosystems. We hunt for restoration techniques, you help implement them. We hunt for sustainable alternatives, you help your people adapt to them. Zakira's mandibles clicked rapidly. You want us to become hunters like you? We want you to become better hunters than you were, Sarah corrected. The kind of hunters who can thrive for millions of years instead of destroying themselves in a few thousand. Gromlash was quiet for a long moment. Then he asked, what if we refuse? What if we want to continue hunting the old way? Sarah's expression remained calm and friendly. That's your choice to make. But ecological collapse follows natural laws, not political ones. If current trends continue, your worlds have maybe 50 to 100 years before they can no longer support complex life. And if we agree to work with you? Silvash asked. Then we hunt together for ways to save them, Sarah said. And in the process, your people learn new hunting techniques that will serve you well when you spread to other worlds. She stood up in her chair, preparing to leave. Think about it. You're all skilled hunters. Imagine what you could accomplish if you applied those skills to hunting the right prey. What do you mean? Crexton asked. Sarah smiled one last time. You could hunt for ways to restore your worlds. You could hunt for technologies that would make your people stronger. You could hunt for knowledge that would help you spread to the stars. You could hunt for wisdom that would ensure your species survive forever. She climbed down from her chair and gathered her equipment. The universe is full of worthy prey for hunters who are brave enough to pursue it. Disease, ignorance, scarcity, isolation, entropy itself. All of them are waiting to be hunted. Where are you going now? Zakira asked. Back to my ship, Sarah replied. We have a research station in the neutral zone where we're coordinating restoration efforts. If any of you want to learn more about hunting the hard prey, you're welcome to visit. She headed toward the cantina exit, then paused and looked back at them. You're all magnificent hunters. It would be a shame if you used those skills only to destroy, when you could use them to create something amazing. As she disappeared into the crowd, the four predators sat in stunned silence. Everything they thought they knew about hunting, about being predators, about their place in the universe, had been challenged in a single conversation. Finally, Gromlash spoke. She's right about our world's dying. She's right about everything, Crexton admitted reluctantly. We've been hunting like amateurs compared to the humans. Zakira's compound eyes tracked toward the exit where Sarah had gone. They hunt for eternity itself. How can we compete with that? Maybe we don't compete, Silvash suggested quietly. Maybe we learn. The four apex predators looked at each other across their table, seeing themselves and their hunting traditions in a completely new light. For the first time in their lives, They had encountered prey that had become something more dangerous than any predator, a species that had learned to hunt its own nature and become wise. And for the first time in their lives, they were all thinking about bigger prey than they had ever imagined possible.